Over 150 years ago, the United States fought the bloodiest war in her history against herself. As much as 3% of the population of the country died fighting that war, and one of the two sides that fought it was the Confederate States of America. The Confederacy lost the war and was vanquished from history, but what if the Confederacy lost the war and was vanquished from history, but what if today, for whatever reason, the Confederacy re-emerged as an independent country again? What would the Confederacy of today actually look like? To begin with, the same 11 states that were part of the old Confederacy would be part of this new one as well. Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. The Confederate population of today would be over 104 million people, which is fascinating when you consider that the population of the Confederacy in 1861 was just over 9 million people, over 11 times less than it would be today. Slavery was, of course, a central element of the old Confederacy. 39% of the population in 1861 were slaves, which means that the free population was really only a little over 5.5 million people. Slavery like this in the modern world, though, is absolutely unthinkable and completely unnecessary, as a modern Confederacy would be much more industrialized and urbanized than its past self was. The most powerful and influential Confederate state in 1861 was Virginia, which was home to the capital city of Richmond, located just 155 kilometers away from Washington, D.C. The most populous city back then was New Orleans, with a population of only 169,000 people. The least influential states then were Florida, home to 140,000 people, which, interestingly, was less than the population of New Orleans was at the time, and Texas, which was home to a population of just 604,000 people. The Confederacy of today, however, would be wildly different. Virginia would be only the 5th most populous state, while Texas and Florida would be the most populous and most powerful states. Texas especially would dominate the modern Confederacy. Houston would be the largest city in the country instead of New Orleans, and 6 out of 10 of the largest cities in the country would all be located inside of Texas, while the others would be scattered around a few other states. The capital city would likely become either Austin or Tallahassee in Florida, owing to the power of those states inside of the country. If the Confederacy ever came back into existence, however, it would almost certainly be in immediate conflict with the remainder of the United States. So how would the two sides look compared with one another? The Confederate population, while higher than it was in 1861, would still have less than half the population of the rest of the United States at over 217 million people. The Confederate GDP would be 5.079 trillion US dollars, the third highest in the world, but the remaining United States would still have an economy over twice as large at 13.49 trillion US dollars, making the United States still, after losing all the Confederate territory, the world's most powerful economy. The military budget of the Confederacy would also be the third highest in the world at 161.2 billion US dollars, but it would be no match for the remaining United States military's budget, which would dwarf it at 450 billion US dollars. The actual military sizes, however, would be much more comparable than they were in 1861. Assuming that all of the soldiers of each state returned home and didn't defect, the Confederacy would start with a military size of 1,153,000 soldiers, while the remaining United States would have a military size of 1,211,000 soldiers, just slightly larger than the Confederates. In 1861, however, the odds were much more in favor of the Union, who had 698,000 soldiers at the peak of the war, compared to only 360,000 Confederate soldiers then. With all things being considered, though, a modern Confederacy would be a major global power with the third largest economy and third most powerful military. Just like it was in 1861, however, the Confederacy would be significantly weaker than the remaining United States. The two sides would have a similar-sized military to start off with, but the Union could draft significantly more soldiers later in the war since it would have more than double the population of the Confederacy. The Union Army would also be much better equipped owing to a drastically larger budget and economy than the Confederacy would have, which means that in the event of another civil war, the Union would once again have more advantages and be the likely winner of any conflict. Please leave your comments below about how you think this scenario would play out if it were to actually ever happen. This video was voted on for me to make this month by my patrons over at the RealLifeLore Patreon. If you'd like to take part in this community and vote on future videos, then please check it out by clicking here or following the link in the description. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking here to stay updated for future videos, and I hope to see you again for another brand new video next Friday.